The Arizona Cardinals must dominate on Sunday, but not necessarily in the way that you think. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, free wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Quick shout out to everydayers. I don't thank you directly enough. You know that I wouldn't be here without you. That's my tagline at the end of every show, my send-off line. But much appreciated. We're headed into week 4. We're six of the way through the season. Like, here's the thing. You're going to hear me say this sporadically throughout the year. Appreciate football, okay? This is the time of the year where people start to just take it for granted. It's going to be here forever, even though you know it won't. And then week 12 or week 15 comes, and you're like, oh, no, appreciate football again. Appreciate it throughout, because the season's going to go by quicker than anybody expects, and it happens every damn year. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Cardinals need to dominate. I'll explain. Stopping Jaden Daniels. What's that look like? And what are the X factors / paths to victory for the Cardinals pertaining directly to X factors? I'll wrap the show up with that. Time to dominate is something that I've been going back and forth with. We're like, is it time? Is Washington legit? Is that offense that good, or is Cincinnati's defense that bad that we saw last week? Regarding dominating, the Cardinals are where the Lions were last week. The Lions is to the Cardinals as the Cardinals is to the Washington Commanders. The Cardinals are ahead of the Washington Commanders curve. The best entity of 11 players in this game is the Cardinals offense. If you were comparing Cardinals offense, Cardinals defense, Washington offense, Washington defense, the best group of players is the Cardinals offense. Therefore, with the leadership of Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzing, and Nick Rallis, with Kyler Murray, with the skill position players, still TBD on if Trey McBride's going to play, I think Elijah Higgins will be just fine. He'll be just fine as a backup tight end. And they'll just feature Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson more, maybe a little bit more of the run game. With that group of players, the Cardinals must win this game because they're supposed to. And that sounds stupid, like just in a sentence form, in a vacuum. The Cardinals are supposed to win this game. Very rarely over the last couple seasons was that a statement that I would say. Maybe the last one was the Raiders game in 2022 where Kyler Murray had the massive comeback. He put the team on his shoulders, and there was a scoop and score by, was it Byron Murphy at the end of that game? I think. It was so long ago. Could have been Isaiah Simmons. I don't remember. But the scoop and score for the touchdown to end it. I think it was Byron Murphy. That was the last time where it's like, oh, the Cardinals should win this game. If the Cardinals want to continue this positive trajectory, and they want to continue that proof of concept manifesting and, morphing into something more adult and more tangible because of the talent that they have and because of, the evolution of the team as a whole with Jonathan Gannon coaching it, they need to win games that they should win. Conversely, when they were, 7-0 and 10-2, I talked about this a lot over the years as a flashbulb memory for me, because this is when I knew without a shadow of a doubt that nothing had changed, even though the Cardinals had an incredible record through 12 weeks, was they went on the road to Detroit and lost. That was Dan Campbell's first year. That was Jared Goff's first year, I believe. And Detroit was a bad football team then. And the Cardinals went on the road, early morning slate, couldn't get a win. I believe they were still atop the NFC at that point. I knew it was like, well, that's not a playing thing. That's not a talent thing. That's a coaching thing. That's a culture thing. And now, when things have shifted, and sure, it's still in a so far so good situation. I know that. We're only 20 games into the new regime, only half of which Kyler Murray's played. But games that should be won, I believe will be won by this team led by this new regime and this new face of the organization that's functionality and just not what it was. It just feels, and listen, if you don't believe that this feels different, that's fine. I'll agree to disagree. You very well know that I'm not saying sugar-coated things just to say it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of your IQ to hear it. But this is the year where we're going to see, is that actually true? Are the Cardinals actually going to win the games? And I know any given Sunday, I know all of those things, okay? But by and large, if the Cardinals are supposed to win games, do they win the majority of them? That would be a massive shift where it truly was any given Sunday with the last year. It's like, well, see what happens. Now they're so prepped, and we've seen it with the close losses over the last couple of years, the wins that came out of nowhere, especially last year before Kyler Murray came back, Dallas and otherwise. Now the shift is, okay, there are games on the schedule that the Cardinals should win, and this is one of them. And this is why I think they will dominate, at least offensively, on Sunday. The math just adds up. They had to do that against the Rams, and they absolutely punished the Rams. The Rams riddled with injuries. Cardinals can't control that. They did what they had to do, and they did it like any other NFL team would do with a team that was as hobbled. I don't know if they would have put up a 40-burger other teams. The Cardinals did. Now, we'll see what happens with Washington coming into town. I don't care. Like, the Cliff Kingsbury aspect, I don't even think about anymore. On to bigger and better things here, and that's not a direct, slight at Cliff. This is just a better coach team than when Cliff was here. It's just true. The little things speak so loudly. So it's blatantly obvious, in my opinion, and I think most would agree with that, unless, they're a Revenge of the Birds writer who I will not mention by name, but if you follow on Twitter, you know. I think the only Cliff Kingsbury truther that's ever, not moved away from it. I think it's Looney Tunes. Domination can look a bunch of different ways. I'm not saying 41-0. I'm not saying 50-10. That's one game domination. I'm talking about domination in the sense that the Cardinals are just on a higher level of football play, starting from the very little things. No false starts, no bad timeouts, no delay of games, no bad penalties, things like that. Like, I think to see this true proof of concept in play, we need to see what Detroit was compared to the Lions last week, or compared to the Cardinals last week. It's an elevated level of play. Even if it's just by a little bit, it shows that the Cardinals are fully out of the doldrums where they were and on to potentially great things that we haven't seen strung together year after year by this organization. And I think Washington's a perfect opponent. They've got a high-powered offense, it seems. They're coming off a huge win. This is a game where if the Cardinals can dominate from the little things up, it will put the NFL on notice. Like, okay, the Cardinals aren't in the lower third anymore. They're right in the middle, even with the defense being severely undermanned and under-talented, even with Darius Robinson and B.J. Ojulari's injuries aside. I am excited for this game more than the other three up until this point, and it has nothing to do with Cliff Kingsbury. It has everything to do with this being a perfect barometer check, just like last week was, and the Cardinals passed. The offense was tough in the second half, which is, I think it's more of an exception than the rule at this point. But this is the game where it's like, okay, can you stamp down on a team you're supposed to be? We'll see. Stopping Jaden Daniels is the number one concern for the Cardinals defense naturally. What does that look like? And how should the Cardinals, where should they focus their efforts and energy? I'll discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved to the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash, receive unlimited 1% deposit bonuses, and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhoodgold.com/gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members, so you know it's good. I love Prize Picks, okay? It's super easy to maneuver around. You can make an entry in less than 60 seconds. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Want to play Prize Picks alongside Drewski, Joe Budden, and MMA champ Sugar Sean O'Malley? You can now find community plays under the promos tab in the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. It's going to be a fascinating matchup, man, and it starts with defending Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, we've seen a bunch of different sides of him. Early on, we saw the rush attack. He ran for almost 100 yards in his first game as a pro. Week 2, a little bit less running, no touchdowns scored. I think they kicked 6 field goals or 7 field goals to beat the Giants. He looks very composed, very under control. I talked with David Harrison from Locked On Commanders yesterday during the crossover episode, and one of the things that I mentioned was Jaden's 23 years old. Okay, he's not 20, he's not 21. And while you're still a younger guy as a quarterback, it's a big job, it's a big role. Those 2 years, for maturity's sake, that he spent in college speaks volumes to the more stable runway you could potentially have in the NFL once you get there, just because you've matured a couple years. And it shows. He's a very mature guy, very smart guy, very cerebral guy. And then we saw against Cincinnati that he could throw the hell out of the rock. And we knew that. We haven't seen it at the NFL stage yet. And he torched the Bengals defense. So it's kind of pick your poison. The Cardinals pass rush isn't great. It's played out of its shoes with Dennis Gardeck and Zayvon Collins, et cetera. Kazir White, Mac Wilson sparingly. But it's not fantastic. The offensive line for Washington isn't a strong suit of theirs either, so that may be something that they could exploit, just like they did with the Rams when only 2 of the 5 starting offensive linemen for the Rams played. The cornerback room isn't fantastic. Buda Baker and Jalen Thompson have been great. So you pick your poison. I said yesterday with David Harrison on the crossover, go check that out. David Harrison, we have a great time. We have really good on-air rapport, and we're buddies. So it's fun to talk whenever the Cardinals play the Commanders. The poison I pick is keeping Jaden Daniels in front of you. Make him beat you with his arm. And I know it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, but the one thing that cannot happen is Jaden Daniels rushing for, over 100 yards and a touchdown. Can't happen. I'd much rather force him to throw the ball and attempt 30 passes, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns to win. I'll take that risk over watching him because he is so smart with his body. He's 6'3", I think. He's still slight. He'll put on some weight, as he grows into his role, but he's so fast and he's so elusive and he doesn't turn the ball over a lot. He's a guy that can be an absolute terror in this league with his legs. And it's going to be something that, because it's only his 4th NFL game, he may be looking through his progressions. And this is something that I saw out of DC, where he's going through his progressions too fast. He hasn't slowed down yet. And this is a perfect time for the Cardinals to play him, especially coming off a big week where it's like maybe there's a little bit of confidence. It could be the NFL is a fickle mistress with confidence. 1 week you're great, the next week you can have 3 interceptions and a fumble, especially for a young player. So I believe that the Cardinals put themselves in the best situation to succeed by having the safeties high, making dump passes, and running the ball the way that Washington wants to play, and that lends to Cliff Kingsbury's offense so well. And that's something that I'll pivot into X factors here in the next segment. But there is one massive X factor for the Cardinals as pertaining to path to victory. I just think that blatantly make Jaden Daniels throw the ball to win. Make him throw the ball to win. And if the Cardinals can get pressure on him while making him throw the ball to win, that's where turnovers happen, and that's where the Cardinals need to step up a little bit. If the Cardinals can be opportunistic on defense and get a turnover or 2, that should be more than enough for the offense to bring this game home. What are the X factors? There are a couple. I'll discuss them next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. You can start your season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. So it's like, listen, I want a little more info before I put some cheese down. You can do it right in the app. You don't have to go anywhere else. It's an absolute game changer. You can watch live play-by-play the same place that you're placing your bets. Come on, man. All in one place. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Check them. Please go to the YouTube channel, search Locked On Arizona Cardinals. Hit that subscribe button. Turn notifications on. If you want to go leave a review wherever reviews are left, I'd appreciate it. You know that I'm happy that you're here. And, yeah, man, this is going to get more and more fun every week as we start to see exactly what this team is. This is a huge barometer check. And you could say that about every NFL game, but every game that they've played up until this point has really been like the chef's kiss. This is exactly what we need to find out about this team to see if the progression is continuing in a positive direction for the most part. And now it's against a team that they just like, if they can beat Washington by 10 at home, I think that would be the domination. They don't have to beat them by 30. This team isn't, the Rams game is probably going to be the only game where they win by that much or close to it this year. But a game by against Washington, if the Cardinals lose by 10 or 13, we're going to be having very different conversations on Monday. Not, the end is near Armageddon stuff, but it's going to put into question some things. And that's why I think they're going to be so prepared. They're going to be ready to dominate, and it doesn't need to be by winning by 30. Do the little things right. Outplay Washington. Not just have a couple huge plays by Marvin Harrison Jr. that result in a victory. Like, this needs to be a 60-minute domination, outcoach, outplay, and everything in between for the Cardinals. And it'll really resonate, not only with them, the NFL, and hopefully the fans will start to get off Kyler Murray's ass. X factors. The number one X factor is, can the Cardinals, after getting Washington into 3rd and longs, 8 or more, 7 or more, 6 or more, can they get off the field? We saw Josh Allen run rampant on 3rd and 10 plus a couple times in week 1. And we saw last week on the 3rd down to clinch the game for Detroit, 3rd and I think it was 11, quick, slant in route by Amon-Ra St. Brown, game over. Can the Cardinals get off the field on 3rd down? Not only will it help the offense, but it'll give the defense some confidence throughout the rest of the season. This is something that my biggest X factor, as I mentioned, going into Sunday, I'm picturing 3rd and 11, Jaden Daniels in shotgun, him running for a first down. Like, that's what that's just, it's not expected. It's not, but it's like that's what I'm most worried about going into Sunday, because the defense has gotten into so many perfect situations, whether it's by penalty or otherwise. There's holding on 3rd down things. It doesn't matter how it gets to 3rd and 11, it gets to 3rd and 11. And they can't get off the field. I feel like this has been an ongoing thing ever since I took over this damn podcast in 2017. I don't know why. Maybe it's just confirmation bias, flashbulb memories, things like that, where that's all I remember. But I just feel like, geez, man, they can't get off the field on 3rd and long. And if the Cardinals can get off the field in 3rd and long and get Jaden Daniels off kilter a little bit and make Cliff start to do what he does with the paralysis by analysis or whatever, not calling the right plays when times are getting, into crunch time, that's going to be a massive thing for the Cardinals. Number 2 X factor, I discussed this during the week. This needs to be a Marvin Harrison Jr. eats game. And I've got this conflict of identity with what I think this offense should be. And I've said all offseason, run the ball, Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe Marvin Jr. could 100% take over the mantle as wide receiver 1 very quickly. We just don't know. We haven't seen it. And then now with James Conner struggling last week against the best run defense in football pretty much, we'll see if it's different. Like, if we see James Conner struggle again with this offense, I don't think he's going to struggle nearly as much as he did last week. Against this defense, we're going to be having different conversations. So with that, why not get Marvin Harrison Jr. involved early and often? I'm not talking about broken plays, 4 for 130 and 2 touchdowns. I'm talking about 4 or 5 targets in the first quarter. I'm talking about opening this offense up a little bit that can allow the run to have a little bit more, a little lighter box than they had to deal with against Detroit. I'd love to see 15 targets from Marvin Harrison Jr. on Sunday. Not forcing, nothing like that, but working the offense, massaging the offense, tweaking the offense in a way that gives him opportunities to succeed. The timing routes just aren't there yet. Okay? It's nobody's fault. They've played 3 games together with Kyler Murray and him. I would love to see Kyler Murray can throw the ball in so many different ways. I just want to see his arsenal used in a different way when targeting Marvin Harrison Jr. Could be short, could be wide receiver screens, could be intermediate, could be deep balls, whatever it is. I want to see Marvin Harrison Jr. eat, and that will open up this offense wider than it would be possible. Trey McBride ate if he plays, if the run game, Greg Dortch, Michael Wilson. Once Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray get on this same elite page, the world is the offense's oyster, because then he'll need it to be double covered. He'll be able to overtake that, but then everybody else is going to be on easy street compared to what we saw against Detroit. Even though, Marvin Harrison Jr. had a few catches, had a touchdown, is great. Like, the progress is there. Once the Cardinals are able to unlock Marvin Harrison Jr.'s total potential in this offense, that's when it's going to be all she wrote. So I'd love to see in week 4 against, the corners are okay there. They've still got Jeremy Chin, who plays all over the field. He's like an Isaiah Simmons body type. They got Bobby Wagner in the middle of the field, seasoned vet. He's going to be probably a first ballot Hall of Famer. But this offense can be had, and the Cardinals have the talent to do it. So X factor for Marvin Harrison Jr., if he has 7 or 8 targets and the Cardinals, it's a close game and maybe the Cardinals lose, that's not acceptable at this point. We've seen enough. He's way more comfortable than any rookie ever should be. He's just better than a lot of NFL players already. I want to see that as an X factor. I want to see that. And then finally, this is something I've discussed all week. They got to figure out the right elixir, the right percentages for Kyler Murray to be running the ball. Now, if the offense is humming and he doesn't need to, fantastic. I'm not saying design runs. I'm not saying, I'm just saying building out a game plan to where you've got, if it's a pass play, you've got an outlet, and then you've got blocking set in place if he were to run. Okay, I'm taking away the gray area plays that I talk where a play kind of breaks down, and then if it's man coverage, he's got his chunk and he takes off. That's not anything that's ever going to be scripted naturally. I don't even need to see RPOs where Kyler Murray's definitely running the ball, where it's set up as such, and he's only handing it off unless, with the lines configuration, where it's so obvious you're handing the ball off, otherwise he's running it. Like, I need to see what the plan is for him running the ball. It's the second half of a couple games. They just didn't do it. And talked about this, and I don't think this is brain surgery here. He took a couple pretty good shots, one against Buffalo, one against Detroit, and then they just stopped it, which I completely understand. And it can't be all or nothing there. So that'll be fascinating to see X factor-wise what the Cardinals can do. And then finally, another thing on offense, what is their fourth down theory going to be? It's been bad so far. I wonder if there's ever going to be a switch turned on where it's 4th and 2, 4th and 3 field goal range, you always kick it. Like D'Amico Ryans always kicks it. He's got a guy, Kaimi Fairbairn, who can make a 58-yarder now. I mean, he was always able to, but he's kicking better than he ever has. You just take the points. And I don't think in this day and age, with how much bad football is being played, that that's a terrible idea. Points are better than no points. Helps the defense. That's going to be an X factor throughout the entirety of the year. What is their fourth down, base theory going to be? And sure, I'm talking about fourth down, inside 5 yards to go, in field goal range. It'll just be fascinating to see. That's like football nerd kind of that's the number one thing that I'm always looking forward to every week. Like, what are they going to do this week? Last week, not great. Dennis Gardeck interception. So for those that forget, Kyler Murray, first drive of the second half, threw an interception, threw the ball up into double coverage in the end zone. Marvin Harrison Jr. got intercepted. Kyler Murray got an interception, not Marvin Harrison Jr. And then next drive, the Lions come down. Dennis Gardeck gets the ball thrown right into his belly by Jared Goff, returns it 10 yards. They're already in field goal range. Run. 4th and 1. Kyler Murray couldn't get on the outside. Not great. Like, if you're going to go for it on fourth down, it's just like it doesn't make sense to run the ball 4 times in that situation. So it's going to take some tweaking. They're going to figure it out. That's going to be something that I'm looking forward to every week. So listen, it starts with, getting off the field on 3rd and long for the defense. That's the X factor. If they do, much better chance of winning than if they don't. Marvin Harrison Jr. 15 targets. I don't think it's a lot. I don't. 12, 15 targets, especially if Trey McBride doesn't play. Kyler Murray's running the game plan behind that. They need more out of him. If they have, you want to protect him, obviously. You want the offense to hum without it. If it can, this is not an X factor. But if they stall a couple series in a row and you need a little burst, all it takes is one. All it takes is him tucking and running one time to completely put the defense on their heels. People lulled into a sense of security that Kyler Murray's not going to run the ball. All it takes is him to do it one time, get 7 or 8 yards. You're like, oh boy, spy him. Then everything else opens up. And then number 4, what they're going to do on fourth down. I don't know what's better. I don't know what benefits this team, this defense, what position it puts the defense better in, going forward on 4th and short or not, taking the points. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating. Hopefully the Cardinals get a dub, move to 2-2, and say goodbye to Cliffy. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you Monday.